Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Backlog Banter. We did it. We made it to another Nintendo Direct. It was only a partner showcase, but
it was a Nintendo Direct. It wasn't a mini.
You're right. It wasn't. There was no mini
Direct.
qualifier clause at the end of that. You all saw it. We all saw it. Abram, we got quite a few games that we're here to talk about today that you, in particular, are very excited about. So let's break this down and talk about why this for you was one of your favorite Directs.
Yeah, I mean, is it one of my favorite Directs ever? I don't know. I couldn't really, gun to my head, tell you what my other favorites are. But what I can tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is that I was incredibly impressed by what we saw today. Largely because a lot of it caters pretty much directly to my interests.
Yes.
But I...
Which is, frankly, the only bar that matters when it comes to a Nintendo Direct.
It is. And I mean, the way I typically think of a Nintendo Direct or really any showcase is like, am I walking away from this with a handful of games that I am personally interested in?
This one you got an armful of games.
I got an armful of games, and that's a high bar for me.
Yeah.
Because usually, these shows are designed with everybody in mind. And this one, no doubt, was. There's plenty of fucking JRPGs and anime things all over the place in this showcase,
which we're basically not going to talk about, to be honest.
Probably not. But it was a tight showcase.
If you like an anime, if you like a JRPG, I'm sure there was one in here that you liked.
Yeah, you got fucking...
We're not going to talk about them.
It's not
the games that shall not be named.
It's not our jurisdiction. But we got a major Nintendo announcement. Well, major for us.
Yeah, it's a minor Nintendo announcement, but...
And then some really great original third-party titles on the AAA level, some great independent stuff, and so it and a lot of great legacy stuff. So it hit like a 4-quadrant appeal for me. But before we even get deeper into that, I'm curious for just like your high-level read of how this show went. Because there is some debate online. I mean, you see a lot of people online saying this is really boring. Like I saw Spawnwave, the YouTuber, posted like, hey, what would you give the Direct as a grade?
Yeah, a lot of people were doing that, actually.
Yeah, and it's good engagement bait.
Also, multiple people of equal repute. Yeah. Jeff Keighley, Botox Games, Spawnwave.
And a lot of C's. Yeah. Depending if you're in more hardcore Nintendo circles, that score is typically higher. But like I've already said, it was very, very good for me personally. But I'm curious what you make of it as like a overall show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the variety was definitely there. Yeah. There was games in all genres. There was games across history. I thought that really, really worked. And there were some things that were surprises. There were some things that weren't. And I really did like the variety. And so I'm pleased with this. I got a couple of games that I'm interested in. But there was really only like one quadrant that it hit for me today. There was a Nintendo game that was revealed. And that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I got Penny's Big Breakaway dropped. But other than that, there's nothing here I'm like glowing about. Because most of the games that I'm looking forward to, I already knew about going into this. Like, okay, World of Goo 2 was revealed at Game Awards. It was really cool then. A little bit more deep dive here, but did we really need that? It's World of Goo. It looks like more World of Goo. Pepper Grinder, I have thought looked good for about half my life at this point, and now it's coming soon. But that's really what this felt like to me, is like reaffirmation of there are actually a good variety of games coming up soon that I'm interested in. But most of the bigger stuff is either things that I'm probably not going to play or not going to play on this platform. If I'm going to play Pentiment, I'm going to play it on Game Pass. It's very cool that I was there. It's great that it was in this Direct. It wasn't exciting because we basically already knew about it. We've been talking about it for the last few weeks. But yeah, there are a couple games that were revealed here that I thought looked cool, but I didn't have any jumping for joy moments in this Direct.
That's fair. I mean, I think one thing I think is really nice about this is that it fills out the calendar very well for the first half of the year. Most months now have a Nintendo console exclusive.
Correct.
Whether it's developed by them or published by them, or just a simple console exclusive like Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is exclusive, and that's launching in June. So I think the only month as of right now that there is not a console exclusive is April.
Yes.
So I think that's pretty good. I think we've got a much clearer roadmap of what Nintendo's doing this year, and they mostly did keep their word of maintaining this showcase as
first half of the year.
Being first half of the year. Only 2 exceptions of note. The big one of note is obviously Fantasy Life I, which is all the way in October. Yeah. Which is a little bit odd considering that game was supposed to be out last year. Yeah. But
I think it just shows that level 5's in over their head, frankly.
Yeah,
but the game doesn't look bad or anything.
No, it looks good. I mean,
whatever. Take your time.
Yeah.
Clearly, they think it needs till October, and they just spoke too early. last year when they said that.
I think it's definitely a case of them just clearly announcing those release dates with no real understanding of how long those games are going to take, which happens. I mean, maybe their internal plans changed. Talent got moved somewhere else to scope creep, whatever. It happens, but it is nonetheless surprising to see, okay, man, we got to wait most of this calendar year, too, for Fantasy Life. And I really like the one on 3DS, so I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of it?
Fantasy Life, I love this game series.
I believe it's Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time?
Something like that. Actually, no, it's the girl who stands behind.
No. Well, Bo just has it on here as Fantasy Life I, so that's not the correct name of the game, Bo. Sorry.
Yeah, shout out to Bo, by the way, who put a list of everything.
Well, shout out to me for asking him to put together a list. Frankly.
Yeah. I mean,
whose fault really is it?
Like, do I want to praise the labor or the management? I think the management.
Yes,
nicely done.
I always say that.
And then the other one, which actually I think per view, at least on Nintendo's official page, per view count was the biggest game of the show. Okay. That's Epic Mickey Rebrushed.
Oh, sure.
It's coming at some point.
Which just has a 2024, which could technically mean first half of the year if they get another showcase to show it off and they're like, hey, it's actually out soon. But don't expect it necessarily in that first half of the year.
What do you think? Because, we won't do too many other conversation and think about the state of the first half of Nintendo's year. What do you make of what we have now?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's very good because some games have released, not ones that I'm excited about or interested in, and it seems that's largely what's coming up as well. But it's fine. It does feel like filler, and it does feel weak and slow. But what are you gonna do? Frankly, especially coming off of multiple very strong years, like literally years worth of great content. It's like, okay, a slow period happens every once in a while, and it's not like there's literally nothing, and it's not like we don't have the feeling that there will be something great soon. So I'm just riding it out. I'm not upset about it, but I'm like, it's not very good.
Yeah, I mean, when you start to put in Endless Ocean, which obviously for me is very exciting.
We'll very much talk about that.
And we will. And you put in Super Monkey Ball, which is again a series I've loved since I was a kid, and this will be, I think I was counting, this will be the fourth Nintendo. No, that's not true. Technically, Monkey Ball and Monkey Ball 2 were exclusive to the GameCube for a period of time. But the point is, there's a long history of Monkey Ball games being exclusive.
Sure.
And so Monkey Ball coming back to Nintendo for what looks like, so we won't talk about it too much more later, but what looks like a really great return to form for the series that seems to be taking the criticism of modern Monkey Ball.
Yeah. What modern Monkey Ball?
Well,
the two remakes.
In the remakes, they've included a jump function that has really made a lot of level design moot, but even with the new momentum-based charge dash...
Let me tell you one thing. Monkey Ball level design is already moot.
Sure, but it seems like they're making the right mechanical changes to include the flexibility they've wanted the newer games to have while still really engrossing you in the physics and the skill of Monkey Ball. So I think it looks really good. I love the art direction of the game. New customization, new characters, a lot of fun multiplayer modes. Yeah. I'm really, 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 really looking forward to that game.
Yeah. And II has pants now.
II has pants now.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see that as a console exclusive. It's fun to see Endless Ocean in there, and when you bring in
World of Good 2 also a console exclusive.
Yeah, which is cool.
Okay, sure. I mean, I guess it was that when it came out in the Wii.
Yeah.
Technically.
I think it's cool that Nintendo is making these partnerships to frankly give the games where Nintendo would be their lead platform the best chance to succeed by being exclusive and having that marketing behind them.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that. And when you do add in Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion, if you do, if those are in the first half of the year or if they're in the summer or whatever, I agree with you. I mean, I think that it's weak if you're looking at this as a year where you want system sellers, because they really aren't. No. But I think that we're at a point where the systems are sold.
There are system sellers as people are selling their systems because they ain't getting the games.
I just think that the reality, and Bo has made this point, and I think it's the correct point, of you would rather that the last year of Switch was quiet than the first year of Switch 2.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you look at a lot of Nintendo's hardware drought or software droughts in the past, the drought has been there have been no games.
Yeah.
This is a year where the quantity of game is there, and the quality is there too.
Yeah.
The quality is just more specialized to particular groups of people.
Yeah.
The games Nintendo's releasing this year don't have the same universal appeal for the most part, but they have the quality.
Yeah.
So I'm personally happy with what we have in 2024.
Well, I think what's exciting about this as a partner showcase is that they really got to expand what the term partner meant,
right?
And what we understood to be in the context of what a partner showcase has been for 3 or 4 of them over the past couple of years. It's actually been quite a while since we got one. I think it was like summer
2020.
Yeah,
sorry, 2022. Summer 2022.
Yeah, so it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah.
But it's because we had a good cadence up until now of full directs where it's just not necessary. And it's interesting to sort of think back and be like, okay, it is actually in the areas where they had less games. I guess that's not true for 2022. I wonder why they went with the partner showcase then. Whatever, it's fine. I'll get that in my own mind.
Just the volume of third-party games they had at that point.
But in this showcase,
yeah,
we did get a Nintendo published game revealed and announced for coming very soon. And so partner now means that they're also talking about teams that aren't in-house Nintendo teams are partners. And so it's interesting to see where that shakes down. But I think that, for me, is the clear highlight of this direct. The third-party games that were revealed were fine, and I'm probably going to play them. But in terms of something new to get me looking forward to, a new Endless Ocean game is not only from being published by Nintendo is not only really cool because it's a revival, but it being a new game is especially important because this last couple months and going into the next couple months are really light in terms of new games for Switch hardware.
Right.
And we've actually sort of complained off and on about that over the course of the entire Switch life cycle. It's like, okay, they're revealing a lot of content here. This game's kind of a remake, but it's not. And now we're getting literally just remakes.
Yeah.
But adding Endless Ocean, a new full Endless Ocean game from Eureka, onto the schedule.
We don't know it's from Eureka.
Okay,
and
well, sure.
That's actually a point I want to talk about quickly before we get into the game itself. Mm-hmm. I don't agree that this show really expands the meaning of partner showcase. Okay. I understand that there's never been a game published by Nintendo revealed one of these.
Yeah.
And that definitely does set a different tenor, but there have been plenty of Nintendo published games featured in these in the past.
Yeah.
Now, I'm only saying this just because I don't think that this is as big of a revelation for how Nintendo is going to operate as like other people do.
Okay.
I think if anything, it just sets a precedent for Nintendo that they're going to have to like manage if they do more of these partner showcases.
Sure. Yeah. Well, because I think that you're right in that last part is that it does change the tenor, and it does change what the definition is because that has never happened before, and that is the biggest thing that can happen in a Nintendo Direct is the reveal of a game published by Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so even if we're looking back at the other direction, like, maybe DLC for Age of Calamity was in one of them, or Mario plus Rabbids, Sparks of Hope was in one of them.
Hyrule, those are the 3. And Part-Time UFO so far.
Yeah. Oh, well, Part-Time UFO is an interesting one. It's like, okay, that's a port, and that wasn't even actually published by Nintendo and developed by HAL on mobile.
But they were published by Nintendo on Switch.
Oh, okay, sure. But this is a new game.
Yeah.
This is a reveal, and that has never happened in one of these. And usually, what we understood was the signifier of Partner Showcase was that we were not going to get first-party games revealed or published games revealed.
I just think that there's a lot of like conflation of this is not a first-party game.
Yeah.
This is not. Well, we don't know that, but the most likely scenario is that this is a development partner.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Eureka. We don't know. Nintendo has not said that officially, which is fucking bizarre. Again, that they will not confirm this. So I agree with you that it's significant through that lens. I just think that there's a big difference between Endless Ocean being here and like even Mario Baseball.
Sure,
or
of
something.
course, yeah.
But it ultimately doesn't matter to me because A, these partner showcases don't happen very often. B, it's weird. It's unclear. And I was thinking about this. Is partner showcase an adjective for Nintendo Direct in this case?
Okay.
You see what I mean? Because this was a
Nintendo... As opposed to what?
As opposed to being the thing.
Oh, okay.
Because
sure,
they called this a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
And this at a certain point, I'm not deep enough in like Bo Andres Nintendo Prime circles to dive that deeply into the semantics of this.
But you're kind of doing it.
But I just think it's interesting that this is a Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
And of course, the others were minis, so they were still directs. But I think it's just a weird semantic situation, one way or the other.
Sure.
The interesting thing for me is that it is Endless Ocean, not where it was announced.
Yeah,
if it was announced on Twitter, if it was announced in our fucking living room. What this does for the future partner showcases is probably nothing because there's probably not going to be many more of them ever.
No, God no.
So
because you can easily imagine start of the next console generation. it's not necessary to have these anymore because the flow of first party games is coming and you have to announce them somewhere and then just include the third party games around that. But yeah, let's talk about Endless Ocean. Yeah. And Abram, we own both games, so prop comedy, I'll show them to you guys.
Yeah. I mean, I am quite astounded by this. There they are.
Endless Ocean, Dive, Discover, Dream, and Endless Ocean Blue World, both for Wii, both developed by Eureka.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, if you don't know, are the team that have, for the Switch generation, developed the 99 games, being Pac-Man 99, Tetris 99, and Mario 35. Yeah. They did not do F-Zero 99. That was Nintendo Software Technology. That's weird. But under the assumption that they are the ones doing Endless Ocean, I think that does make sense. They have been quiet. They have not put out a game since Pac-Man 99. Yeah. And so it's been 3 years since then. This is just a wild conflation of events that, to me, alongside things like bringing back Advance Wars, bringing back Trace Memory, signals that Nintendo is just willing to have strange things happen with their money.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it really does is a couple things. I mean, on a personal level, I'm extremely excited. Now, I haven't played Blue World, and I'm going to change that very shortly. But Endless Ocean, I really love. I grew up on the coast. I have a personal connection to the ocean. I love to learn about it. I think these games are really good. And
you don't know, this one could be complete shit, frankly.
It could be, but by all accounts, it's just a better game. And I just out of happenstance bought Blue World at the beginning of this year. Yeah. Because I was just getting some Wii games I hadn't played, and now I'm primed to get ready for Luminous. But so I have a deep personal connection to the subject matter. And Endless Ocean is just such a cerebral and interesting game. Yeah.
And especially because there's not only not many things like it. I mean, there are certainly games that are underwater. Something like Subnautica is incredibly popular. But this is not really the type of game that gets published by a major company.
Not
These
anymore.
are usually... Yeah, I mean, if you think about something like, I don't know, Africa from Sony back in the day, or like, I guess, you might say like Pokemon Snap fits into that category of just like enjoying environments and having it be very realistic. But Nintendo has not done anything like this in a very long time.
No, there's actually concurrent to Africa another game on PS3 called Aquanauts Holiday.
Sure, I'm sure there was,
which pretty much was Endless Ocean on PlayStation. Yeah,
and I'm gonna look that up.
And prior to Endless Ocean, Eureka made 2 games called Everblue that Capcom published on PS2, which were also very similar to this. So it's sort of like it's a subgenre of like just naturalism games that doesn't really exist anymore, unless you're thinking about more arcadey stuff or there's some indie stuff. But for the most part, it's such an atypical piece of software to release these days that I'm really excited about it through that lens. And I'm also just already very moved by the vibe of Luminous.
Sure.
I understand that the frame rate on some of the fish is not great. I understand that that clearly this is not the highest fidelity game on Switch, but I already really am moved by the music. I'm really moved by the ambiance of the game, and I'm really excited to be underwater in HD like this with others, swimming around, exploring, cataloging fish, and just enjoying a modern take on this forgotten subgenre and forgotten series.
Yes.
So I'm just very, 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 very pleased, and it's probably one of my most anticipated games of the year now. So
I think what is so cool about this being announced in this way is that it's a new game. And it would have been, frankly, so much easier to just port either Endless Ocean or Blue World. I can't really decide in my mind, okay, which one would they choose if they were going to port one? Port it, make it HD, clean up the textures a little bit, add online.
Yeah.
Boom. There is online, but maybe expand the online or don't because it's a port, whatever. And that is kind of where my mind went to when yesterday Pyro suggested that there would be something Endless Ocean related as the community sort of discovered. And in my mind, I was like, it's Endless Ocean. It's going to be a port because we're in port season. This is just what's happening nowadays. They don't seem to be revisiting these older, weirder series with new entries.
Right.
They've just been remaking them. And so I was like,
Famicom Detective Club, Advance Wars,
Trace Memory,
and the precedent being these collections, these 2-pack collections.
Oh, sure.
So.
Yeah. But then when we see the game, and at first it's like, who the hell knows? It could be anything. And then they say a new adventure. I'm like, that's really cool. Like that, it feels like very mature to be like, look, we don't need to reintroduce people to this series when, frankly, if there is a next game, is just kind of be a better version of these. And we'll just try something new. And it looks like from what we saw in this trailer, what they're expanding to is adding sort of mythical fish and like deep water diving and huge multiplayer and stuff.
To be fair, that stuff is already in Endless Ocean.
Then what is new? Because I mean, they really highlighted like fossil fish and.
I mean, in Endless Ocean, again, I can only speak about Endless Ocean 1 because I've not played Blue World yet. But you do dive down to the dark bottom of the ocean. The plot is largely about this mythical whale that has spiritual significance to the community. So it's an uncharted territory, and obviously Blue World did have multiplayer. So
they both do.
Yeah, this is a iterative sequel for sure. What's definitely new is the scope of the multiplayer. Obviously, 30 players. But they also mentioned this sort of.
Hold on, I'm just noticing. Endless Ocean Endless Ocean Blue World E10 Plus, who dies?
That's a good question.
Who strips?
What they seem to be really honing in on this time though is the sense of like community and this idea of like a procedural component to.
Sure. That's right. That's right. That was a big part of that.
And so I'm really interested about this because Endless Ocean 1 is actually a really narrative-driven game, and it's very laid back. It's narrative-driven. It's about the ambiance. It's about the dive. It's about slowly progressing the mystery of the Manorai Sea. Or I always forget because I played the game in English. I wrote about it for a UK publication, so I don't remember which name of the sea the audience will know. The answer is probably neither. Frankly.
Yep.
But. So I'm excited to see those tenets. Endless Ocean is laid back almost to the point of aggression.
Sure.
Where the person you talk to who throughout the game is like, you don't have to do this if you want.
Oh, I remember we were playing that together. We made so much fun of that. It's just like, don't do it, actually. Frankly.
I'm like, they're like, you don't have to. Like, really, you don't have to do this. So I'm really interested to see where that spirit converges with this new multiplayer focus and what this roguelite, whether it is even roguelite. I tend to believe that the procedural nature of the game is probably more about like the fish you encounter things opposed to maybe the actual seabed changing, but that's just pure speculation. But I'm really excited to see what they do. But I think this is also a formula where its absence from modern game design largely means that you can
do whatever you want.
You can not touch it that much, and it's already a really good formula. So I'm excited to play Blue World and see how it builds upon Endless Ocean 1. And I'll be really curious to obviously compare experiences of both to Luminous.
No, totally. And it is coming out on May 2nd, which is pretty soon. It's a solid distance away, but I'm very much looking forward to it.
I'm also sometimes like a really vibes-based person. Like I don't like watching Christmas-related things when it's not Christmas time. Endless Ocean's a very summertime game.
Sure. So you're going to wait to play it?
No, I'm saying May is good. May.
It's spring, though.
Yeah, but it's warming up. It's towards the end of the year.
Okay.
End of the school
all right.
year. So I don't know. I think that it's a good release date for the game.
Yeah, no, so do I, because it can release at any point. But we had talked about Monkey Ball, Banana Rumble, talked about Fantasy Life. Is there anything else that really sticks out to you?
Yeah.
Give me a chance to talk about Star Wars!
That's what I was going to do.
I'm making the Star Wars face.
I mean, there's not much for me to say about this. What they're doing is bringing Star Wars Battlefront 1 and Star Wars Battlefront 2, the original pandemic-developed games, to modern platforms, and they're basically like taking the best features of every version of the games and sticking them together, which is also what Aspyr, who's developing this collection, did for Force Unleashed 1 on Switch. They're taking the DLC of 2 from the original Xbox and putting it in. They're taking like the online community and suite that exists right now on Steam for the game and bringing it to consoles. So they're really picking and choosing the best versions of these games to put together and clean up and bring not only to Switch but also PlayStation, Xbox, and Steam. That in definitely the clearest resolution we've ever gotten, because the version on Steam I don't think is really a remaster, although you can make the game look quite good on Steam. It's already the best looking version of the game, but I'm just over the moon. I mean, I've wanted this for so long. multiplayer, whatever, I'll probably play some, but just having these games on my Switch is very, very, very exciting because there's, especially Battlefront 2, I can close my mind and see every menu and map and explain every class loadout. It's one of my favorite games, one of my most played games ever. So it's really a pleasure to have it on the platform. And I think one other thing I'll say about the Partner Showcase on the whole is it really exemplifies to me how this system's library gets the best of everything.
Yeah, no, totally.
It gets really smart legacy games like this. Mm-hmm. It gets games like Endless Ocean that are continuing old franchises. It's getting things like Monkey Ball. It's giving a home for their partners to cultivate these new entries in smaller series. Then you're getting your big things like Grounded and Pentiment. It's a really great breadth we saw today, and I think Battlefront's a key part of it. And I'm just very, very, very excited to play with so many people.
Oh, yeah. It's so, 64 player online or something ridiculous like that?
Yeah, and I don't even mean that. I'm just talking about the fact that between BLB, between friends on Twitter, between Lost and Cold, like, this is the game that seems like the most people I've talked to are excited about.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I'll be very interested to play the game with you a little bit.
Yeah.
So you can get a feel for it.
Sure.
So, yeah. Obviously, my most excited announcement is Endless Ocean. Mm-hmm. And Monkey Ball. Frankly, Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is close to tied.
Sure.
And then Battlefront Legacy Collection are the three big ones for me.
There were a couple other announcements for games that you are excited about and have already purchased. Those being Penny's Big Breakaway and Pocket Card Jockey Ride On, both released today. They're out today, and we have them both downloaded and purchased. And we've played a bit of Penny's Big Breakaway. We're not going to talk too much about it in terms of our thoughts on it because that's not the point of this video. But that, I think, is my big takeaway from this, my big breakaway from the showcase, is that I love that there is now the expectation that when a direct happens, it's not just going to be things coming in the next few months.
Yeah.
There's going to be something to engage you in the ecosystem now. And actually, I think today was one of the best examples of that because not only did we get Penny's Big Breakaway, Pocket Card Jockey Ride On, DLC for Suika Game, which was a huge surprise. I think we should talk about that. But also, Pentiment is coming tomorrow, and 5 rare games dropped on NSO, and then one Mother game dropped in Japan on NSO, which I won't really get into that.
I want to say something about that. I just want to say something about the whole Mother 3 situation. I think that there's a lot of ridiculous reactions to this online in every direction. I think that the people who are like, "Oh, Nintendo doesn't owe this to you," whatever, are like, you're not dick riding, but I'm like, Nintendo is a company and you can request things of them. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I also think they're ridiculous. I can't believe Nintendo brought this game to NSO in Japan is insane too. My opinion on this lies somewhere in the middle. It's the only time we'll probably ever talk about Mother 3 on the channel. So here's what I'll say about Mother 3. There is a
well, once it gets translated and re-released and we play it.
Well, it's never going to happen. And that's kind of my point. There is a crop of game included in this game's I love, like like Captain Rainbow and Mother 3. Mm-hmm. They have subject matter that is not easily localized. They have no commercial viability. Yeah. And the reality is, at a certain point, it's not reasonable to expect these games to come back. The IP is held in various places. Atoy doesn't want to make a new game, although he did say today that he'd be willing to localize the game if Nintendo was interested. I'd be very surprised if those conversations have not already happened.
Of course,
I think it's weird that he even said that, frankly. But the reality is, if you want to go play Mother 3 in English right now, you can. Mm-hmm. And I think that there is a big issue in games culture in general of people assuming that if something is not being done officially, it's not being done at all.
Sure.
And I think that we need to celebrate fan works more. Both original fan games, Sonic Triple Trouble, as one that I love, but also fan translations and patches, because these are as valuable as what official companies do. And the reality is, if Nintendo were to translate Mother 3, it probably wouldn't be the level of authenticity that the fans translated the game to in the late 2000s. So, and we're having this conversation on the day that Endless Ocean 3 got announced. Yeah. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous to suggest that Nintendo doesn't care about the niche series or niche fan bases. But I also think it's ridiculous to not uplift the work of fans that you can go experience right now. So
yeah, and I think what really sticks out in my mind is that, well, I will not say that I don't think it's impossible that we get it at some point in the future, before the heat death of the universe. Yeah. But I will say that now would have been the time. If there was going to be a time in the current time period, it would have been today, frankly. Because if they're talking about the game and they're bringing it back and they're getting it ready for Switch Online and they're having these conversations, they would have either had these conversations and it would have come out and been translated today, or it would have been delayed a bit and we wouldn't have known about it and would have come out in 6 months or whatever. Yeah. But it didn't happen. So it's not, if it does happen, it's gonna be a decade or more, whatever. But I just think that's interesting to think about. Like, they're obviously thinking about Mother 3 because they just put out Mother 3. And so if they were going to translate Mother 3, they would have done that and put it out today, because the Switch generation, I think, has been actually very, very good at keeping things very relevant across all regions. There are very few Nintendo published games and 0 Nintendo developed games, I believe, that are Japanese exclusive, or there's some that are region exclusive, like Dr. Kawashima's Brain Training was not released in the US for whatever fucking reason, but it's in English, so you can play it, and the system is region free. So, yeah, like, this is just, I think, would have been the perfect time to do it. NSO is at its most popular. So many people are subscribed to it. That gives an incentive for going on the expansion pass. Right. The Switch is reaching the end of its life. We're getting into legacy content, region free. It would have happened now. It was going to happen anytime soon. But also, NSO wasn't, as I was mentioning, this isn't the only thing that happened on NSO. Yeah. And in the US, and I guess, across the world, we got 5 games from Rare. But weird 5 games from Rare we got, and I have played all of them because Bo and I sat down for about 90 minutes and we went through each of them. RC Pro-Am, Snake Rattle and Roll, Blast Core, Killer Instinct, and Battletoads in Battle Maniacs.
Yeah. I think it's really cool. I think that this is what NSO should do more of. I think this is what every one of these legacy services should do more of. Yep. It's what PlayStation Plus never does, which is why I canceled my subscription to it. I don't want just the high-level games. Yeah. I think it's really cool that they brought this Rare stuff over.
Totally. Yeah, and what I think it does signal, though, is a very exciting turn that they are willing to make the cuts for Rare. And what this necessarily means for the Rare games that people, frankly, would be much more excited to see. Yeah. Diddy Kong Racing, Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Tooie, Perfect Dark. These are the games that would get a huge pop if they showed up. Not that Blast Core and Killer Instinct aren't like games that get people excited, but I like that Rare is willing to cross-pollinate their weirdest stuff. Like these games, I believe all of them were in Rare Replay.
They were?
But okay. But we've gotten 2 or 3 Rare games on NSO. There's GoldenEye, Jet Force Gemini, and Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah.
But I hope this ball just keeps rolling, and we get Rare drops a couple times a year, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox, after refusing to name the 4 games we already knew about, did have 2 of them drop in the Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
And as I said to you, there's clearly no friction between Microsoft and Nintendo anymore. No. There's no way that these games aren't going to come over.
Yeah.
And I hope, and you were joking about it earlier today, but I actually hope things like Banjo Pilot or Grunty's Revenge or some of these
It's Mr. Pants.
Or It's Mr. Pants, a lot of these weirder games make it in addition to the others, because the others...
I think there is a very solid chance that this summer we get a massive Donkey Kong drop.
Yeah.
Because it is Donkey Kong's anniversary. The rumor in the wind that there's going to be a new Donkey Kong game, but frankly, the old, weird, mostly bad Donkey Kong games dropping on NSO does not compete with that at all. It only serves to celebrate. And so if Donkey Kong 64 and Diddy Kong Racing and the land games and the Game Boy Color port of Donkey Kong Country and the remakes on Game Boy Advance, like, there's a lot that they could do for Donkey Kong through Rare, because Rare was Donkey Kong's home for a decade plus. And it's frankly a big part of that series lineage that has been sort of aggressively missing from Nintendo's hardware for years at this point.
I also really wonder where the fuck the ROM for Banjo Pilot is. Mm-hmm. Who has that? Who's allowed to work on that? Sure. Did they throw it away?
Vim's Lair.
I mean, the reality is probably they would rip the game from online and then get it, because there's no fucking way. What are you gonna go tell senior management at Rare to go pull up the fucking USB stick that has Banjo Pilot on it? I don't think so. But and Nintendo has taken ROMs from the internet before to put on virtual consoles. So, Are there any other specific games you want to talk about?
The chat just jumped to this picture that you sent of Mario throwing a brick.
I really like that picture. I think the picture is really funny.
No, I mean, I think we covered everything that I'm interested in. Anything else? You want to talk about the Xbox games at all?
I'm not going to play them.
Monster Hunter Stories from 3DS is getting an HD remake
cool.
on Switch, and I'm very happy that 3DS games are not going to be stuck on those pieces of hardware, because it's very unlikely that we'll get a piece of hardware going in the future that could accurately recreate the play of those games. That was sort of possible on Wii U. Of course, it was a little bit different, but remaking these games so in the majority they're accessible and their stories are accessible, and for a series like Monster Hunter, that's not something that requires two screens, and so it's not a game that I probably won't play it, but it's really cool that Capcom is willing to say, hey, we had this 3DS game, and we have this engine, and just touch it up and put it out and make sure that does not stay trapped on like a piece of hardware that was like bespoke.
And I mean, I believe that its sequel, Wings of Ruin, did quite well on Switch, so it's cool to see this one come out.
And I believe that is console exclusive. Monster Hunter Stories 2? Or did that go otherwise?
I know it's on Steam now. I don't know where else it was. It was definitely a launch exclusive.
Yeah.
I think there's one last thing we should do. Very briefly, I think we should have the talk.
I have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
This Direct had almost no non-leaked games.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I think it's just, as we're wrapping up...
Sweet Game DLC?
Sweet Game DLC. Battlefront was not leaked. Even Epic Mickey we knew about, apparently, according to Bo.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter Stories leaked as a retail listing a couple hours before the show started. Jeff Grubb has actually said that where he got Metroid Prime 4 in 2024 from is the same place he got Epic Mickey rebrushed from. So, could be cool.
Who knows both those things? Those are worlds apart.
But Pyoro gave us everything here.
Yeah. I think on a title basis, probably more today than has happened in the previous Directs, because usually it's just been the big Nintendo stuff. But we were getting Monkey Ball, and obviously Endless Ocean is Nintendo, but like this was a pretty good breadth of things that Pyro was leaking. And also, it wasn't just Pyro. We've also been talking about these Xbox games for weeks at this point, and they've been sort of an open secret.
Yeah.
And other sources sort of came together to make this probably the most, on like a percentage basis, leaked showcase I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously it was only going to be compounded by the fact that this was allegedly delayed, and it didn't hold any secrets anymore. For myself, what I like about Nintendo Directs...
Snake Rattle and Roll was not leaked.
Snake Rattle and Roll was not leaked. For myself, what I like about Nintendo Directs is that they bring the community together. And the watching of a Direct for me is exciting in that I learn what I get to play next. But I feel the same level of excitement if I see a Twitter drop. I felt the same level of excitement getting the press release early for Monkey Ball Banana Mania as I did seeing Pyoro post a picture of a stuffed monkey ball.
Yeah.
What I like about Pyoro, specifically what I like about Pyoro is that Pyoro is a showman on some level. And it's fun when a Nintendo Direct ends up becoming like a 5-day affair. And Pyoro shares stuff, and we check his replies, and we check his likes, and everybody is chatting together, and it's like a light ARG for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I think it's different. It's a fundamentally different way that Nintendo Directs are going to operate until Pyoro is caught. And the reality is, if Pyoro has some sort of back-end access to the eShop, which is one of the theories about him, or about them, we don't know who the hell they are, this isn't going to change probably unless they make a big mistake, unless they get their fucking IPs.
The only thing that we can maybe assume if there is the back end eShop access is that with the launch of the next system, that won't be as much problem unless it's a shared eShop, and then that maybe becomes a problem. But if they're at least different, then Pyro would have to get access to a new
But if
eShop.
they work at Nintendo, they're probably going to be working on them, So I just think it's interesting that we're at a point, and as a Nintendo community, where Directs are never going to be the same as they used to be.
Yes. And all because of one little red little guy on the internet. Yeah. I blocked Pyro today.
Yeah.
And I muted the word Pyro.
Yeah.
Because I've realized that Pyro has actively made my life worse since he started leaking things. And we've had this discussion. We actually had a specific video about this discussion that, by the way, is actually getting views right now because Pyro is so popular that people are searching the word Pyro on YouTube and finding our fucking video from like a year ago.
Yeah.
But that Endless Ocean is exciting to me. And the fact that it's a new game is very exciting. And we didn't know about that at all. But I feel that it's just kind of like cheap clicks at a certain point. It's like, what really is the point of hinting to people that we are getting an Endless Ocean game tomorrow when we're going to get the Endless Ocean game revealed tomorrow?
Yeah.
And I would much rather have been like, what the fuck is closing this partner showcase? And not knowing that it was possible that there was going to be a Nintendo published game revealed in this showcase. And never in a million years thinking that Endless Ocean was going to be one of the series they brought back.
Yeah.
And being given the chance to experience that without the ding. All right, check that one off.
Yeah.
Pyro is more credible over and over time. But the only thing I can do about it is stay away from those conversations because it makes my life worse, and I would like my life to be better.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that I wouldn't have been more excited if Monkey Ball hadn't leaked and Endless Ocean hadn't leaked and there had been a 2-second, oh, what is this? And then, oh my God, it's a Monkey Ball moment.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's not important for me at the end of the day to do that. What's important to me is I get to play the games. And what's important to me when I watch a showcase like this is being able to really...
I heard that every game that Pyro leaked is actually getting deleted.
Uh-oh.
Hope he leaks all your favorite games in the future.
I like being able to watch a show like this through a different lens of no panic. I think that one of the things about Nintendo Directs that I've always talked about in favor of a partner showcase, in favor of breaking apart announcements, is that there's no panic of, okay, you're wasting time, get to the next thing I care about.
Yeah.
I go into this show knowing I'm going to get Endless Ocean, knowing I'm going to get Monkey Ball, knowing I'm going to be really excited, and knowing that I'm going to get to really look at this Endless Ocean trailer, look at this Monkey Ball trailer, and sit with it and get something a little bit deeper out of it. And like I said, I just have more fun personally refreshing Twitter and talking with the community and engaging with this news that way than I do necessarily just watching it in the direct. Because we still do get good reactions. I still was so happy to see these games. And I think it's just interesting because this can't be put back in the bottle.
Yeah.
And I think that you won't be able to avoid it. And I will continue to do my best to make sure you can avoid it. But I'm not saying this as though you don't have the skills to dodge the leaks. But I'm saying it in the sense that every Nintendo YouTuber, every Nintendo news site, every Nintendo fan online, in Discord, everywhere talks about the Pyro leaks.
Yeah.
Because it's just how the news comes out now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that is, as somebody who's not that bought into the hype culture of gaming in general, not something I necessarily mind. Because it's really how a lot of news ends up getting out for basically every other form of entertainment that I enjoy. So it's just different. And I'm curious to see if he does, if they get stopped. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people are going to stop talking about Pyro. I don't think it's going to be contained to the word Pyro.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to start I think you're going to have to just start deleting.
I mean, my goal now is if a Nintendo Direct is rumored to be like a week from now, because usually Pyro isn't the first source to say like, okay, a Nintendo Direct is coming soon. Delete the Twitter app.
Yeah.
Watch less YouTube for a week. Yeah. Enjoy the experience. Reintegrate myself into that culture. It might even be maybe good for me. Maybe. Could be good for you too. Take a little break.
Yeah. But I also don't care if I see a game for the first time in Direct or not. Yeah. So. But I think what you're saying is totally valid, and I would bet that a lot of people feel that way too. So. Yeah. We did it. We discussed the whole thing. I'm gonna go play more.
Wait, what the fuck? We didn't talk about Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist?
No, but that is actually a game that people are excited about. People really do like Ender Lilies. It's the sort of game where I look at it, I'm like, I don't get what you people see in this. But that was a cool announcement for a lot of folks. So.
Right.